Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for the Q&A, so let's go ahead and get this started. Alright, first question. Hey Jason, I have noticed your fat loss, which seems pretty impressive. Even when compared to a couple months ago, you seem to have lost fat. I'm watching your videos so I know how you train these days, but can you tell on what kind of diet you are right now? Thanks in advance. I follow a straight ketogenic diet, around 300 grams of protein, and eat maintenance calories. Alright, that's pretty much what I do. Now, people will say, well, that's not keto. Yeah, it's totally keto. People who lift can eat massive amounts of protein, who have high calorie turnovers, and they stay in ketosis. That's what I follow. I've got my own reasons for doing it. I'm not saying it's perfect for everyone, but that's what I do. I did a breakdown in last week's Q&A of exactly what I ate, because people were asking me, what do I eat? What do my meals look like? It's pretty straightforward, but again, for those curious, I follow a keto diet. My diet's based around red meat, bone-in meats, full-fat dairy, green vegetables, and occasionally nuts. That's pretty much what I eat. That's what I eat day in and day out. I don't really do carb ups. Not saying I never have a carb meal, but they're not something I schedule, and it's not something I do anywhere close to a weekly basis. Sometimes I go 9 or 10 weeks without eating a carb meal. Right? So that's pretty much what I do, and it's straightforward. All right, next question. Coath. Barbell Rows with a mixed grip, yay or nay? Thanks, count. We were inconsistent with that. All those C words. So, over to the point. I'm going to say absolutely not, nay. And here's why. Why do we do a mixed grip? Why do we do a mixed grip? We do a mixed grip because on the deadlift, it is a necessary evil oftentimes to lift heavy weight or to do any sort of significant reps for people who don't want to use a hook grip or for people who don't want to use straps. And I'm generally not an advocate of straps. I would rather see people mix grip and rotate it. If you are having grip problems on rows, this is a problem. Your upper back and middle back exercises, if you're having to use straps, your grip has major problems. You shouldn't be lifting enough weight on these for it to be an issue. And if you are, either your grip is really weak and you just need to fix it, that's an easily fixable problem, or you're cheating so badly with big old cheat reps, or cheat reps for really, really high reps while you're standing and not resetting it on the floor, that it's an issue. And when you think about the potential for muscle imbalances, they're really, really high. In fact, even though I've looked at some of the stuff with supine grip barbell rows, and I mess with them a little bit, and I've seen people like Grip Toe advocate them, I don't even advocate underhand grip at all on a row. The more I look at it, it's just at risk of injury with no benefit. And again, you're doing something like a row, the muscle imbalances are going to be prevalent unless you're switching every single rep, and it's just, there's no point in it. There's literally no point in doing it. Just grip them double overhand, and if your grip is an issue, it might be time to rethink your grip training. But it shouldn't be. Smaller, lighter exercises like rows just should not run into grip problems for the most part. The only people who usually have those issues are people who are doing standing rows where they don't reset them and they're cheat rowing, right? They're almost doing like the Dorian Yates type rows, which most of you really shouldn't be doing. There really isn't a need to train that way for back development. In fact, it's not really optimal, not really ideal. All right, next question. What's the deal with all the crazy one-legged exercises people are doing while tied to a spider web of resistance bands lately? Do they have any use at all? Probably not the stuff they're doing. Now, will I say that a little more advanced lifters might have a place for one-legged exercises? Sure. Not necessarily a lot of the jumping stuff that people want to do. There's a place for unilateral leg exercises as supplemental lifts. They absolutely have no place as primary lifts, and I think things like pistol squats are completely absurd. And I've kind of covered that before because it's more of a balancing act than a muscle building exercise. You're wasting way too much energy on balance, and it limits your ability to load the muscle. Is there a place for unilateral work for, say, direct hypertrophy of quads and glutes and things with reduced axial loading due to recovery issues for people who are doing a lot of squatting and deadlifting? Sure, absolutely. But what I would always say with that, they can't be primary exercises because you're limiting your total strength. If you're at a situation to where you've created such an imbalance that your back becomes a weak link in a squat, you're imbalanced and you need to fix that, and you're certainly not athletic. That's been my biggest argument with some coaches who try to do that for field athletes. You're going to get athletes hurt. That's ridiculous. Now, for supplemental lifting, do one-legged exercises have a place? Sure they do. They do for hypertrophy as secondary exercises. And people say, well, why not novices? Well, because novice lifters generally don't have the work capacity for this to be an issue. Novice lifters can probably get maximum leg development in their first year just squatting and deadlifting. And they're not going to have the axial loading issues that more advanced lifters are going to have as far as spinal compression and stuff goes. As you get more advanced, if quads start to become a weak link in your kinetic chain, there's definitely a place for some one-legged exercises. If you're getting some unilateral imbalances, there might be a place for some one-legged exercises, right? They have their place, but a lot of the sport-specific stuff that people want to do with them could just be replaced with wider stance exercises. Will give the exact same training effect that they want, right? Because it's training them to pivot on that foot better. You get that in a sumo deadlift, you get that in a wide stance box squat. But they have their place for weak link training, particularly for people who need more quad volume, who don't want to do any additional axial loading, because it can be an issue for recovery, or they want to reduce it. It can be a recovery issue. It absolutely can, and we have to think about that for people who are doing very high volumes of training. Is the average gym goer who trains a little bit and doesn't take it very seriously, are they probably going to benefit from that? Probably not. For a lot of them, it's going to turn into fluff. A lot of one-leg exercises will turn into fluff for them. It's usually, I would say they're really only a fit for relatively serious lifters, right? Relatively serious lifters. If you're a man and you squat 315 for a couple reps, you're not a serious lifter. That's a good way to put it. 500-pound squatter, well, that's a little different. They start possibly having their place depending upon where your weak links lay. But like with anything else, they're supplemental lifts. They're there to correct weak links. That's what they're there for. The average person doing some of these one-legged exercises that are popular and trendy, total BS. Total BS. Waste of time. Fluff and pump. All right, next question. What do you think about Stefi Cohen using forced bro reps in her training? Does this have any merit the more advanced you get? No. No. Ridiculous. I haven't seen her do it. But here's the thing. You've got to look at some of these ultra elite lifters sometimes, and what happens is they get to a threshold to where they want to start trying new things, right? They've been training for a few years. She's not that old. She doesn't have decades of serious lifting experience. She is just a genetic freak who trains really hard, did a lot of basic training. Now there's obviously some supplementation happening there, right? Her special supplements, and probably pretty hefty amounts. That's all contributed to her being where she is. She got where she is without doing any of these silly methods. She used extremely basic training for the most part. She really did. Like, I wouldn't call a lot of what she did even particularly advanced training. She's just a very, very gifted athlete with again, great genetics, the right combination of supplementation, and training really hard with the basics. Now, I'm not saying there hasn't been some advanced type programming in there, but it hasn't been particularly complicated. She's reached that threshold where many lifters reach, to where they want to just start experimenting and messing with new stuff. And what people need to remember, when you see someone who is an elite lifter, who became an elite lifter before they tried some of this goofy stuff, don't assume the goofy stuff is what got them there. She got there long before that. You know, it's just like I've heard really elite lifters say things like, well, I got my bench up to 450 before I learned good technique on the bench press. Right? Now, to everybody else, that's insane. If we hear that, that's the most insane thing we've ever heard. At a certain point, you might even say, I don't know if this person's the best person to get advice from on my bench press. They got to 450 without learning how to bench. Okay, and they're like, I just used brute strength to get it up. Then I learned how to bench correctly and got my bench past 500. Yeah, okay, you guys understand? When you're dealing with some of the people like that, you've got to keep that in mind. They're just that gifted. And those people exist. These people exist. They're real. I know it's hard for us to accept that sometimes, but that's the reality. So a lot of times when they incorporate some of these goofier methods, don't assume that that's what's helping. Because honestly, force reps, not really. I go out on a limb and say that people who aren't blasting gear, force reps are a waste of time. For a power lifter, especially, I don't know about that. We could make the argument for people using hefty doses of gear who just want hypertrophy, maybe. Maybe, but what do you think it's going to do for a strength athlete? I don't know that it's going to facilitate much in the way of useful hypertrophy. You definitely have to deal with the recovery stress, right? It's going to be extra taxation on your recovery that's going to take away from your heavy work to do forced reps. And I'm not saying it might not have its place. There might be a case where an advanced lifter might benefit from it. Generally speaking, though, I'm going to say probably not for the vast majority of people out there. But, like anything else, there might be a time and place where every training tool that people use might be a benefit. Maybe she's at that point to where it might actually be for her. But I would say in general, stuff like forced reps, probably not. I don't think there's a whole lot of use for things like that. At least for 99.9% of the population. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.